Hey, what's going on, everybody? This your boy Trey with the Aboriginal Way, and you tuned in to Deep Conversations with Trey. All right, this is our first episode, so we're gonna kick this one off with a couple of opinions on current topics going on. We also want to touch on a couple of things that we think that people in our communities need to be a little bit more aware of and cognizant of. And today we got Raven with us. How you doing, Raven?
Hey everybody, I'm doing well.
Okay. All right. So yeah, we finna get right into it. We ain't gonna hold nobody up. Yo, check this out. So me and Raven was having a deep conversation earlier about the Brawl in Alabama, and Raven, tell them a little bit about what you were telling me earlier.
So the we had recently were talking about the brawl, and you had first brought it to my attention, but I had received some messages in a family group chat from one of my aunts stating that we needed to be ready, we needed to be, prepared, get armed, have our ammo ready, our guns ready, along with a couple of reactionary clips and other people's opinions in regards to this brawl. And upon that conversation, we ended up having our own deeper conversation about it and our own opinions, and we just wanted to discuss them here.
How do you feel about the whole situation?
Well, in my opinion, just of what little bit I have seen and come across about the situation, um, I feel like it's a situation that's being polarized for whatever reason it is. I don't feel like it's a uncommon occurrence. I feel like this is something that does happen often. This one just ended up being filmed or got getting some publicity behind it, so it's out there in the public. Um, I feel like it may be a distraction.
Okay, okay, right. I can definitely agree with that. That's one thing that we do need to touch on is polarization within our country right now, man. So if y'all are tuned in to what's going on around the country, you're gonna notice that there's a lot of splits and controversies being drawn up between different sects and different groups, and you see it all over, right? It's like man versus woman right now, young versus old, north versus south, left east versus west, whatever you want to make it. It's a bunch of adversity and polarization, right? It's the Republicans versus the Democrats, um, goddamn Antifa versus alt right. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever you want to think of it as, it's a lot of that shit going on. And I like to make the argument that this shit is being manufactured, right? Like there's manufactured destruction going, and it's to our demise as a people. You know what I mean? If y'all ever watched the movie They Clone Tyrone, which is a good movie, I advise anybody to go watch that. You know what I'm saying, and check that out. But to me, the whole basis and premise of that movie was manufactured destruction. You know what I'm saying? And as you can see, like people wasn't even trying to be in that environment. That was never their goals. Yet they were in a system that was creating, you know, an environment that was setting them up to fail in. You know what I'm saying? And it was all for the purpose of people doing experimentation on them and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So we got to realize how that shit really plays into, um, our real life situations. Like, what you think?
Why don't you explain a little bit what you mean by manufactured destruction?
So like, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, when I say manufactured destruction, I mean exactly that. Like, it's being created. Like, these things aren't happening by chance. It's being manufactured, right? So, all right, for instance, in the movie, you know what I'm saying? You see them manipulating the food. You see them manipulating the music. You see them manipulating the supplies that we putting in our body or on our body. You know what I'm saying? You see, you know, the church and the religion is at the hub of everything. You get what I'm saying? So, whenever you thinking you're having an original thought to do or act in a certain way is really a manipulation of your subconscious to act in a certain way. And, I think a lot of what we seeing with this brawl and, all of that type shit is basically the same thing. Like, we're being manipulated. You know what I'm saying? I agree with what you said earlier. Like, this is not a one-off situation, man. These type of brawls happen all the time. Like, I was just telling you earlier how, like, fresh out of high school, me and a couple of my homeboys was in a brawl similar to this shit, right? We was in a brawl on Beachside in Daytona, man, and down there killed some damn Caucasians, you know what I'm saying? And got charged with manslaughter and all type of shit, you know what I'm saying? But we ain't start that, you know what I'm saying? Some drunk, Caucasians tried us or whatever, and shit got out of hand or whatever. But, you know what I'm saying? The point of the matter is that I stay next to a lot of Caucasians now. You know what I'm saying? And I don't have these type of experiences every day. You know what I'm saying? All Caucasians aren't my enemy. You know what I'm saying? But that is the narrative that's being pushed, and that's the narrative that I think that they want us to uptake when they show us this shit. They play on our emotions. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times we getting mad because of what they continue to show us. You know what I mean?
Right. We playing in on to our feelings about it. We're reacting to how we feel about this type of situations. We've all had our I guess about with what you would consider racism or issue of conflict with somebody Caucasian
right.
or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? And so it does give you a sense of you may take it a little personal. So you may react on your feeling, but nobody sits back, or we should sit back and say, ask yourself why you feeling like this, because this is happening to somebody else. It's not happening to you personally. It's not somebody that is happening to. And if you do know this person, I can understand that. But they're putting it on the front screen of the world for you to feel some type of way. Right. And now, as a people, we're reacting, to this video, and now they can play on our emotions. Now you're getting it on your mainstream news networks. You're getting it reactionary videos all over social media, and people are placing their personal opinion on it. And now that's fueling your emotions as well, because now it's being force fed to you instead of you sitting down and thinking about it logically, or even just playing devil's advocate and ask, why is this being shown? You know what I'm saying?
Right,
we're so used to seeing, and now we're desensitized to it. Our people being killed by the police constantly, and that was a thing that they pushed. And we're almost halfway through summer, and we've gotten little to no videos on any of these incidents that are happening. So you have to think now we're getting all this.
Well, deeper than that, I would say a good majority of us hardly ever have those situations where we're losing loved ones to the police on film and they just ain't do nothing. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying that it's not happening, but what I'm telling you is the amount of people who are feeling emotionally riled up by that is not proportionate to the people who are actually experiencing that, right?
Exactly.
So, like, even with, like, this whole Brawl situation, like, I was hearing people say shit like, oh, well, can we just have this moment? And I'm thinking, like, what I'm saying? I heard somebody say this on Brother Sanchez's channel, and he was just like, can we just have this moment? And Brother Sanchez said, shit, the people who went through it did have that moment, and that's the exact truth, right? Like, everybody ain't going through that. Mm-hmm. So what do you mean by can we have this moment? That's not all of our moment to have. You know what I'm saying? And I understand we like to have this, idea of uniting and things like that. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for unification. But we got to ask ourselves, why do we always want to unite only after something like this happens?
Exactly.
look around and see how many of us are actually uniting on an everyday basis. You know what I'm saying? I think you were saying earlier, like your aunt sent you a text saying something like, get your guns, get your ammo ready, and da 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 da. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like some type of war or something is finna break out. Well, let me get on that for a second. Understand, bruh. If you think you're going to prepare for something like a war right before a war, you are so far out of the loop. You already lost.
Yeah.
The war has already been won by the other side, because you can't get ready. You have to be ready. I remember playing basketball, and they used to always tell us, always move your feet, because you can't get ready. You have to be ready. Right? And that concept is so true, man. My dad always says, you know what I'm saying? Cause like we live in Florida, right? So like we get hurricanes all the time and shit. And he used to tell us like, batteries and shit like toilet paper, shit like that, man. You got to make sure you get that type of stuff year round. And if anybody lives in a state like Florida, like where you get a lot of hurricanes, well, I mean, I don't know if there's any state like Florida, but if you're a resident of Florida, y'all know what we're talking about. Try to go get some stuff when, everybody knows there's a hurricane about to touch. You're not going to get nothing. You can't barely get gas.
Right.
You could barely get gas. Wait till a day before that shit hit you and think you're going to get something.
And that's the theme in Florida too. We all know when hurricane season is. It's the same season every year. And 2 or 3 months before the news, everybody's telling you hurricane season coming. Get prepared. Here's a checklist. But most people wait until we get a hurricane a day or two before, and they go clean you out.
Right. Right.
But
so that's the point, though. That's the point. So what we're saying is what that's called is being reactionary. Right. So this is something that as a people we have to learn to be better at, man. We got to stop being reactionary and be proactive. Stop being reactive and be proactive. You get what I'm saying? We should be year round having guns and ammunition, and not just for some imaginary Caucasians, because like I say, all Caucasians ain't out here to jump on you and like, bro, I don't deal with that type of shit, bro. Let's just be real with it. Yeah. Ain't no Caucasians jumping on me or you know what I'm saying?
You're at risk for everyone.
Yeah, bro. We not.
Contact with.
Come on, man. Come on, bro. And I'm not saying this to be like no sympathizer or nothing like that, but I'm trying to tell y'all that there's a greater play out here that's manipulating a lot of us. And you got to start seeing, like, when people want you to be completely on one side of an argument without any logic, that's when you know that polarization shit is happening. That's when you know that manufactured destruction shit is happening. There's people out here, they're basically saying pick a side and fuck the logic. Yeah. Excuse my language, but damn the logic. You know what I'm saying? Just pick a side, and no matter how illogical the argument might be, just stay down for that side. And we got to stop that. We got to like, you got a brain for a reason. You got a mind for a reason. You go through your experiences for a reason. You get what I'm saying? So, that's another thing that, we want to touch on.
And it's not even just, being prepared for a so-called race war or whatever. You just prepare for yourself for, even if it's just daily self-defense, if you're just protecting your home. And I know you always say, it's not just about having guns, it's about training with your guns and knowing how to work your guns and your systems. And, not just having them on you just to have them on you. It's a lifestyle. This is something that, you practice and train on to get better, to be fluent, not only just for safety reasons, which is one of the number one reasons, but so that way, if it was ever a time you did have to use it, we all hope you wouldn't have to, but if you had to use it, you know how to use it and you're ready to use it.
Right. So I always say, what's the most deadliest gun in your arsenal? And the answer to that question is the one that you shoot the best. You know what I'm saying? I don't give a damn if it's a 22 or if it's a, a 454 Gasul. I don't give a damn what you shoot. It could be a 50 cal Desert Eagle. If you can't hit with it, it's useless. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, make sure you're prepared and you're practicing or whatever. And then the other thing is, man, we got to be better and more astute with our learning, man. You know, one of the reasons why we're able to be manipulated so greatly is because these people count on the fact that we don't know nothing, man. We don't know anything. I know I just used a double negative and shit, but I don't care about all that. Listen, we don't know enough. And that's a lot of the reason why they can manipulate us the way that they do, right? Let me tell y'all something. They have a term called linked fate in civics. And basically this is the study that colored people, darker hue people, whatever you want to call us. See, I refuse to use the term black. So, you know, I'm gonna say a lot of different terms. I might say copper colored, whatever, darker hue. But whatever you want to call us Aboriginal people on this land, you know, they say that basically that they have studied the fact that we will attach our political basically our political initiatives to anybody who looks like us or we perceive to come from similar backgrounds and similar experiences. All right, so this is why a lot of, you know, this is why Kamala Harris was pushed on us. This is why Obama was pushed on us. This is why a lot of times we are voting for people that we don't understand nothing about their politics, but because we think they look like us or can relate to us, we're voting for them. We're siding with them. Okay? We are siding with people that we don't understand nothing about a lot of times. And this is not just in politics. This could be in entertainment. You know, this is how y'all be supporting people and then come to find out these people don't give a damn about you. Mm-hmm. All right? Yep. This is something that we got to work on. We have to work on this. You know, I know y'all done heard the saying, you know, all skin folk ain't your kinfolk. Well, it's true, man. Everybody not for you. And the way we got to get from, you know, get from up underneath this is we have to start learning. All right? That's one of our greatest weaknesses. I'm not saying you have to agree with everything you learn. You can challenge what you learn, but you can't challenge something you don't know.
True, very true.
You know, I just heard a brother say earlier that slavery was abolished in the South first. And then, you know, they still had slaves up north, though. And I'm like, what the heck? This is a grown-ass man. Did he just say this? Like, you know, what institution of, you know, learning did you hear that shit from? You know what I'm saying? Exactly. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, literally, I almost, you know, man, look, I'm out my mind right now when I'm hearing that. You know what I'm saying? So I had to really, like, think to myself, like, did this dude just say this? And this is the problem, man. We got to stop always thinking we know some shit and go learn some shit. I don't think I know everything, but I do know that I like to learn. And I'll speak to anybody on an intelligent basis. And you know, I will admit when I don't know something. And I'm not afraid to learn from people. Listen, you know, I know a lot of people out here want to be the master teachers, especially within the conscious community and shit. I'm not on that. You know what I'm saying? We all can learn from each other. All right? But we got to learn. All right? How you feel?
Yeah, I'm with that 100%. I think that, you know, like you said, you know, you don't have to agree with everything that you learn, but at least get an understanding. I've always been one to say, you know, you can't fight something you don't know. You, like you said, you can't combat something you don't know. And if there's something that's being fed to you, but you don't know why, it's best to learn how it is, what is going on, why are they teaching this to you, you know, and then you can go create your own hypothesis, your own conclusion to what, your own thesis to what you've learned, and then you have something to come to the table with. But one thing that I know as a people we need to stop doing is just relying on secondhand information. We need to stop just listening to people. We need to go and look up some of these things people say or what topics they're talking about and get a little background on it, get some firsthand experiences on it, get your own understanding of it. And I'm not saying you don't have to listen to anybody. but at least gather the information and go on your own, because a lot of us get our information from secondhand sources such as social media and the news, and these people
or
usually
just word of mouth.
Or word of mouth, and these
Right.
people usually come into you with a formed opinion already, or they picked a side, or they've gotten it from somebody else, and now they're repeating it without having any foundation or basis from it.
Right. So I always try to get sources, man. Always, it's good to get pointed in the right direction, but then walk that path yourself and see where it leads to. You know what I'm saying? Don't just listen to somebody because they say, hey, if you go that way, you'll get to America. And you know what I'm saying? Right. What they say about Columbus, he thought that he'll get to the India, going to, like, whatever that shit is, right? You know what I'm saying? Don't just listen to people. Travel that shit yourself and see if it leads to where you trying to go. You know what I'm saying? And if it leads to the thing that you're thinking about. You know what I'm saying? So, and we're not going to get on Columbus. I know that's a controversial topic, and, I get it. I was just using that as an example or whatnot. But, one of the reasons why I brought that up is because I do feel like the reason why we are able to be so manipulated with this whole Alabama situation is because they have told us from time to time that we are victims. We were victims all throughout history, and we are still being victims of slavery and shit like that. Exactly. We got to look into this slavery shit, y'all. We got to look into this slavery thing, man. It's not what we think it was. You know what I'm saying? Actually, I will argue with anybody that we ran this country. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of information out there that states that we, that points to that we ran this country. There's a lot of people that are telling you that we ran this. All right? And one of the things that I'm going to get ready to show y'all here is the fact that, first of all, the so-called slaves were not supposedly free until 1865, 1866, sometime in the mid-1860s, right? After the Civil War, with the Emancipation Proclamation, all right? If that's the case, then how come we have darker hue people, colored people who are owning land in the mid-1800s, early 1900s, and how come we have so many successful black-owned, or not black-owned, but colored, darker hue people-owned, Aboriginal-owned cities and towns within America? Community thriving. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people know of Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and what happened there. And not to mention that this thing was bombed almost, 7 years before the Great Depression. So, before the Great Depression, this is a thriving town in the South of people who were supposed to be former slaves, not even 60 years later.
And that was in Oklahoma, and that was just one of many. They believe there was up to, in that time period, 50 to 60 thriving communities. I want to say it's around 50 thriving communities at that time.
But not even 60 years later. Mm-hmm. We talk about people who were not able to read or write. Mm-hmm. Right?
This is the story that they tell you.
Yeah, this is what we're told. Mm-hmm. That these people they're stupid, not good for anything. They had to figure out what to do with these people. They want to send them, so-called send them back to Africa, right? Because they didn't know what to do with these people. But yet, not even 60 years later, these people have a successful town. And mind you, there are starving, poor Caucasians at this point in time.
And when you think about these thriving communities, you have to realize that they supported themselves and thrived themselves. Their businesses were all owned by the people of that community. So not only did they live there and have these thriving communities, they were doctors, lawyers, business owners, farmers that all traded amongst themselves. They That's who they, they went to their doctors, they went to their lawyers. These are not just people who, came out of so-called slavery and just farmed land. These were educated people. These were people with, you know.
And then when we talk about the Roaring Twenties, a lot of people don't realize that the Roaring Twenties was actually the Roaring Twenties because of copper-colored people too. That was attached heavily to the jazz culture. So a lot of people don't know this type of stuff. That was attached heavily to the jazz scene and the Harlem Renaissance scene. Okay, so a lot of this was always about us. Even when you take a civics course, I just finished the civics course, and like I always tell you, man, everything that has happened in this country has been at the basically attached to the darker hue people of this country. Everybody else is attached to this. Even the LGBTQ people, the Latinos, the Asians,
Women.
And this is not even a hate thing. I'm telling you exactly. If you go learn this stuff, man, it's all attached to what we have been through. Okay? The women's rights movement, all of this stuff, right? But we have to learn this. We got to understand what is really going on. All right. So we know about Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? We know about the movie Rosewood. Well, I always ask people, why did they burn Rosewood? Now, I know a lot of y'all gonna say, oh, well, because a white woman lied and said that a darker hued dude raped her. And by the way, they're not white either. You know what I'm saying? They're Caucasians, okay? So, and we're gonna say that loosely. Right, we're not gonna really get into a lot of these names because a lot of these names don't mean what y'all think they mean, and they're not descriptives of colors. Okay, so that's why I say, like, we just talking loosely right now, but we'll call them Caucasians for now. Okay, and like I said, I have no issues with these people because I understand who the real slaves were. These people were slaves. Okay, prior to the 1933 when they took us off the gold standard, right, and they brought in a whole new fiat system of currency, okay, and they bankrupt our country, they bankrupt this nation and our country with it, right? They issued in a credit system which was able to pull these peoples off of their own demise. But guess what it did also? It also kept them as slaves. But we're going to get more into that. Y'all check this clip out right quick. I'm going to play this scene from Rosewood. And I want to show y'all why they really burnt down Rosewood.
I tell you, boys, anybody's hiding Jesse Hunter, my money's on Sylvester Carey. That nigga, he hates us white folks.
Mm-hmm. He does.
You know he's got a piano? A nigga with a goddamn piano. I've been working all my life. I ain't got a piano.
You don't know how to play one?
That ain't the point. Old man Comer, up in that house of his, he got a piano. A nigga's got one, and I don't. Now how'd that look?
These Caucasians were upset that Negroes
I tell you, boy,
had pianos in their houses when they didn't. Now we talking about former slaves. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
We talk about former slaves. These are people who were so destitute, couldn't read, couldn't write. This ain't Tulsa, Oklahoma. This Rosewood, Florida.
Right. Remember, this was a town that was a thriving black community.
But why are we able to thrive when we're former slaves? We're so destitute that they got to figure out what to do with us.
Exactly.
Yet they are complaining that we have what they don't.
You got to think about it.
All right? So we got to understand this, man. All right, I'm going to play y'all another clip from another thriving Black Wall Street. Listen to this. Listen how they try to bury this.
For a long time, if you went to the library in Wilmington, North Carolina, there was one thing you weren't allowed to research.
We were refused. We were rejected by the librarian.
When I asked about or inquired about 1898, they wanted to know why.
I was told that, yes, they had something, but they kept it under lock and key.
The story of Wilmington in 1898 still isn't widely known.
They kept it under lock and key. Do y'all hear this? Come on, man. Let's do this.
What happened here on what's now just this empty patch of grass would radically change racial politics in North Carolina. This is the story of an American election, but also of something we don't usually find in American history: the violent overthrow of a democratically elected government.
And later on in another podcast, we're going to get on this whole democratic government, all this, man. Look, we're going to get on all of that, man. We're going to learn about what they don't tell us and what they don't teach us about democracy, right? So-called democracies. We're going to get on all of that. So y'all stay tuned and just keep rocking with us.
In the late 1800s, Wilmington, North Carolina was the state's largest city. It had a majority black population, and historians today describe it as a rarity in the post-Civil War American South.
Wilmington, prior to November 1898, was what the New South could be at the cusp of the 20th century.
There was an unusual degree of black prosperity.
In Wilmington, there were successful black entrepreneurs, doctors, teachers, but also black.
This was the first Black Wall Street. Shout out to that boy Dane Calloway for this one, man.
Black elected officials. And for a time, that was true throughout the state. Take a look at the politicians on this poster of the 1889 North Carolina House of Representatives. Here at the bottom are black Republican representatives, some from Wilmington. North Carolina also sent 4 black Republicans to the U.S. Congress between 1875 and 1899. The Democratic and Republican parties of 1898 in many ways occupied opposite parts of the political spectrum than they do today.
Most African Americans were voting for the Republican Party, and the Democratic Party was white voters almost exclusively. White supremacy was the central focus of the platform for the Democratic Party.
Republicans in North Carolina were successful in part because of a third party called the Populist Party, made up of mostly white farmers fed up with the tough economic times. North Carolina populists joined up with Republicans to form what they called the Fusion Party. And in the elections of 1894 and 1896, the Fusion Party defeated the Democrats in sweeping victories statewide. That meant North Carolina now had a government that shared power between black and white politicians, including a newly elected Republican governor.
So, as y'all can see, and we're not gonna go all the way into this video, I just want to show y'all how they was hiding this. This stuff is being kept secret from us. You see what I'm saying? They locking this up in libraries and stuff. This is why I tell y'all, we got to do the research. We got to get out here and understand what's going on. But listen to what they just basically explained to you. The Republican Party was mostly darker color Aboriginals. The struggling, so-called struggling white Caucasian farmers had to come join up with the Republicans so they could get a piece of the pie. You understand? They were called the populists. The populists wasn't running shit. The Republicans was. You get what I'm saying? Then they came and joined with the Republicans so they could get on a winning team. All right? So y'all, you know, do more research into that type of stuff, man, and just understand what I'm trying to get y'all to understand. And that's basically the fact that these people were Slavs, slaves, who were destitute. You know, go pull up some of these pictures of a lot of these people from the 1800s, man. These people was, you know, malnourished. You know what I'm saying? Struggling. Like that man said, Sylvester had a piano. I ain't never had a piano. You see what I'm saying? These people were struggling. Okay, when they brought in, when FDR brought in this new system, this New Deal system bullshit, he set up a credit system which allowed these people to move ahead in this society. All right, they brought in fiat currency, paper currency that had no real backing to it. They could print this shit. All right, that's why today most Caucasians get by off credit. All these people that are super rich, these people don't got that shit in money, in cash, in FRNs. They don't have that shit in that. It's all credit. It's digitally moved into their account. You think Jeff Bezos got $180 billion FRNs? Hell no. Elon Musk got 250 billion. No, these people don't have that, man. This is why when governments get outside of themselves, they can freeze their accounts. All right? Mm-hmm. This is why this type of stuff is able to happen. All right? And the credit system is nothing but an allowance system. Mm-hmm. Right? When you go get a credit card, you have to fill out an application. When you go get a loan, you have to apply for one, which means you have to ask for permission to be granted something.
Right.
All right? And what does that do? It makes them a slave to the bank. These people are still slaves. See, I know we don't look at it like this because we have been taught and manipulated into thinking what a slave actually is.
Correct. But you even have to look at the definition of that alone.
Yeah, they're Slavs. Mm-hmm. But I argue this point, and I tell people this all the time. Slavery and indentured servitude are the same thing. And that's why the 13th Amendment that people like to bring up so much specifies between slavery and involuntary servitude, i.e. prisoner of war. That's what we went through. We were involuntary servants, meaning we did not volunteer as a slave. Okay? Slavery is something you indenture yourself into. You go apply to be a slave, like you apply for a job. It's all in contract law. Okay? In contract law, to form a binding contract, both sides have to have consideration. Okay? In the bartering system, consideration will look like this. I have apples. You want some apples? Then you have to give me something for my apples. You got oranges? Okay, I give you some apples for your oranges. But what happens when that person doesn't have anything to give me for my apples? They then have to indenture themselves to me. They have to come work for me. That is the new slavery, y'all. That means if you out here working for somebody, you have applied for a job, guess what? You're looking at that employer for money. And it's not money, it's really FRN, it's currency. But you're asking them for income. But you don't have anything to offer them for their income other than your time and labor. i.e. you're indenturing yourself without the indentured paper. That's what it really is. It's a piece of paper. But you're
I owe you.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? But you're basically saying, hey, I will come do this for you for a limited amount of time, for a certain amount of time or whatever, to receive something that I want from you, which is your currency. All right? And the Slavs were the first people to do this throughout history.
Yes.
They were slaves to the Romans and the Venetians. See, this is what I'm saying. We got to start learning this stuff. All right? right? There's a distinct difference between being a prisoner of war, being captured and forced to do something. That doesn't make you a slave. That makes you involuntary servant, an involuntary servant. All right? And most of the involuntary servants did not come from Africa. They came from America. And a lot of the Africans y'all think are originally from Africa came from America too. Just like a lot of the Europeans came from America too. All right? But that's the topic for another day. I just want y'all to understand how all of this shit tied in, man. So when they brought in this credit system, the people who didn't have anything, they were now allowed to get ahead of us, because now it became an allowance system where they can openly discriminate against us. But y'all got to think, how are we the biggest consumers in the country, but we don't own anything? We don't have no money, so-called. We can't be the biggest consumers without any money or any currency. What we spending?
Exactly. Where we getting this money from that we don't have?
Yeah, what are we spending?
A lot of us don't rely on credit systems.
It's not
discriminatory practices.
Yeah, so it's not that we don't have currency. It's the fact that we don't own anything. Yeah. Why? Because owning things is attached to credit. Mm-hmm. And credit is discretionary. Mm-hmm. It's an allowance. It's about somebody saying, hey, we're going to allow you to do this and have this and get this. Mm-hmm. So you will see a lot of these Caucasians who have things that you can't possess, but they're cash poor. They tell you this all the time. They have no liquidity. They got to borrow against their companies. They got to take out mortgages. They got to refinance their homes. Mm-hmm. All right? Look at how they live. This is why you see these people jumping out of windows anytime the damn stock market go down 10, 15%. Mm-hmm. This nigga got a leg out the window. They ready to jump. You don't see no darker hue people living like that. Why you think they taking out goddamn life insurance policies on people and killing their ass and shit like that?
Crazy.
Cause their liquidity is nothing. They're cash poor. Why y'all think they get mad when drug dealers got all this money to go do all this stuff? You know, rappers go buy cars and shit cash. Because that ain't what the system is made for.
That's why they call the feds.
That's why they be quick to call the IRS and the feds on your ass. Because that ain't what it's made for. So we got to really start looking at this with open eyes and understanding how this thing has been flipped upside down and how they're using our ignorance to manipulate us. We not the victim. If anything, the Caucasians the ones getting duped. See, we lose a lot of our grandparents' houses and stuff, but like I said, a lot of us don't own stuff. We're unable to own stuff. So we're being discriminated against, yes. I will say that. But guess what? They're the ones who worked for, listen, when they take out stuff in credit, they're forced to now work. They're forced to now work. And I'm not saying that working is a bad thing. What I'm saying is they're forced to provide for that loan.
Mm-hmm. You have to have job history. You have to have income.
Yeah, they got to pay off interest.
They have to pay interest.
All type of stuff. And guess what? They can still lose it.
Yeah.
Right? When they pay off a mortgage, guess what? They're set into a system of perpetual taxation. So at any point, if they don't pay the taxes within 2 to 3 years, that property will go to a goddamn tax deed auction sale.
Yep.
It won't go into foreclosure because you foreclose on people who can't pay their mortgages. But once you pay off the mortgage, you still don't own the property because you don't have a lodial title. And a tax is still a fee, which means you don't own it. So who's getting duped? The person who don't own anything, but hey, you can't take it either because I don't have it.
Yeah.
or the person who's been working 33 years to pay it off that thinks they own it and still can lose it. So we got to look at this thing, man. And I'm not trying to psych anybody out of owning anything. That's not what I'm trying to tell y'all. I'm trying to give y'all another view of what is going on out here and how we have work to do. We do, right? But we got to understand how this government is manipulating us, and the people who are in control of this thing how they're manipulating us.
Right. And they're going to give you things such as this brawl to use that as manipulation against you and to work on your fears and your reactions and your emotions about it. And so this is the time to get an understanding of that.
And to drive us deeper into polarization. But y'all know I'm not going to keep y'all too long. That's our first show. Y'all tuned in with Deep Convos with your boy Trey. And I definitely appreciate it, family. Y'all, I'll get at y'all next time.